Hello and welcome back to the Yellow Couch. It's so good to have you with us. Today on the couch, the famous Yellow Couch, we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Kami Asamani and she is the Country Director of British Council Tanzania. Such a pleasure to have you with us, Kami. And today our topic of discussion is going to be unleashing your potential. So what does this mean? Well, we'll get to it as we unpack the topic, but I'm very, very happy to have you with us and really looking forward to learning from you. So karibu.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So Kami, tell us a little bit, maybe we can just start by getting an understanding of the British Council. What does the British Council do in Tanzania, and just give us a little bit of background on the organisation.
Sure. So the British Council is the UK, the United Kingdom's international cultural relations organisation. Mm-hmm. We have relationships or a presence or both in over 100 countries, and we work in English, education and arts and culture. Mm-hmm. And we work with governments and with international, regional or national partners and individuals to create opportunities. Wow. Opportunities to connect internationally or globally, opportunities to explore creative ideas, opportunities to create networks, and also we work to support and create access to good quality education and to internationally recognised qualifications.
Fantastic. So who would this kind of these kind of programs be for, particularly?
Good question. So in Tanzanians,
yeah.
And that just means anyone in a relevant group. Right. So I think a lot of our programs are kind of mainly relevant to kind of younger Tanzanians who may want to further their careers by achieving internationally recognised qualification in English, or in another professional area, or who may want to, for example, partake in a creative enterprise training session. And we do work with everyone, but some of our programs I think are very much tailored towards younger people or people who just want to advance and connect internationally.
Yeah, nice to know, because I think, as you probably know, a huge proportion of our population are young people. Looking for their next opportunity, looking to unleash their potential, looking for that support. So what I'm hearing is that the British Council can help young people, amongst others, to build their credibility, build their career, get qualified and certified in different ways.
Absolutely, and to connect internationally, and also with other Tanzanians.
Yes, fantastic. So how does the connecting internationally happen then?
The connecting internationally happens through some of our programs. So for example, this year we will be working in the TVET space, which is technical and vocational education and training, and we will be working with colleges in Tanzania and connecting them to colleges in the UK.
Wow.
Also with our creative enterprise training, we will be supporting young people with training, and they'll have access to trainers, and then we have networks that people can join.
That's amazing. And are there exchange programs as part of that, or is it more kind of online communities?
Sometimes we have exchange programs. So this year, for example, very, very soon, we'll be sending a Tanzanian artist to the UK to attend the Liverpool Biennale. That doesn't happen all the time, but when the opportunities come up, we do advertise them and support Tanzanians to be able to take part as well.
Amazing, that's so cool. And so you have a physical office space where people can come and find you. Anyone can walk in on any day, right? Where are you located?
So we are downtown, on Ohio Street, or on Ohio and Samora Street, in Dar es Salaam and Caribou.
Okay, nice. I will definitely pass by. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the vision for the foreseeable future. Maybe if I could ask you the question like this: 5 years from now, if the British Council in Tanzania is successful, what does that really mean? What does success look like in terms of your goals?
Yeah, good question. So in terms of vision, I think what we really want to do is connect. Connect. Okay. I think the pandemic had a big impact on everyone, and we are, as I said, Caribou, opening up our space and our programs, and we want to connect with creatives and educationalists in Tanzania this year. We also want to find our space in Dar es Salaam and beyond, in and between and with other international and national players, so that we can connect with them appropriately and support their programs and find joint synergies. And we also want to work out how we can connect Tanzanians with Tanzanians, and also young Tanzanians with the UK, with their counterparts in the UK, and with some of the skills and expertise in the UK as well. So connect.
Got the message. Connect. So this is about building your network, being kind of a hub and a platform for people to exchange ideas, which I love so much. And in terms of the programs, you've talked about a little bit about creative projects, arts. So maybe just so we get that clarity, what's kind of the suite of fields that you're supporting?
Great question. So we already have 2 programs at the British Council that are providing funding to Tanzanian organisations. We have Ignite Culture grants, which is funded by EU ACP, and we already have, I believe, 5 organisations in Tanzania that have been granted. And I just had the massive privilege of meeting some of them at ZIF in Zanzibar. That's the Zanzibar International Film Festival. This week. That was this week. I met some of them, and that was fantastic. We also have the Cultural Protection Fund, which is funded by the UK government and works. It supplies grants to organisations who are working in cultural protection. And we have some organisations in Tanzania who are also granted already. And on top of that, this year we are launching some training for young creatives, and we're hoping to train about 100 young people, mostly young people, doesn't have to be young people, in Tanzania. The physical sessions will be in Dar es Salaam, and then we have a platform for online training where hopefully that will provide more opportunities for those who are able to access. And but the biggest thing I think we want to do is connect, and some of that means opening our doors. So we're hoping to be able to provide networking spaces and celebration spaces this year as well.
Very good. And so if I was to zoom out, just thinking about your strategy and your vision and how you're supporting Tanzanians to connect, what is the connection between the arts and economic development? Can you give us a little bit of the kind of theory behind how that helps?
Yeah, I think when we have people with opportunities who are connected with the right skills in the creative industries, then they're able to be a part of the creative economy.
Right.
And so if I was a young creative, I'd want opportunities to make money and to showcase and to sell what I am producing. And I think in that way we will make a very, very small, but hopefully to the individual, significant impact on sometimes the link to economy, but more so the link to skills and network and connection.
I got you. Yeah, so it's elevating it as a profession as well. So you've got talent, you've got skills in the arts. How do you now actually make a living from it? How do you connect the right people so that they can do bigger projects?
Precisely, and that's what some of the training will be about.
Yeah. Fantastic. So since we're on the topic of unleashing your potential, I'd like to hear about your journey a little bit, Kami, as well, and how you've managed to unleash your potential to this amazing position. So firstly, how long have you worked with the British Council?
Great question. 15 years.
Really?
Yeah.
So where did it start? Because you've not been in Tanzania for 15 years, right? I wish. Give us, you wish. You can stay. Give us like the milestones that you've kind of been through in terms of British Council and maybe even prior as well. What's been your career journey?
Sure. I'll go back a little bit. If I go too far back, then pull me forward.
Yes, okay, no worries.
But essentially, so I'm from London. I'm from South East London, an area called Lewisham. Big up anyone from Lewisham who's watching.
You better share it with them.
Yes, I will. They'll be very proud. So I'm from South East London, born to Caribbean parents in London. And I went to university in Kent, the University of Kent in Canterbury. I studied politics and international relations, and then I studied international law and international relations. And what that did is help me to make an international connection with the way things are done overseas. And I completely fell in love with it. But I think for me it goes a little bit further back. And I'm mentioning this because it may be relevant to what we discuss shortly about kind of listening to your gut. So as a child, my mother, the Caribbean British mother, gave me a book, and in this book I was about maybe 6 or 7 years old, and in this book every time you turn the page you see a young person in a different country, in a different environment, wearing different clothes, standing outside a different house. And I just remember being blown away by every child that looked different, and by the fact that they were absolutely fine. You know, they did what I did. I mean, it was a fictional book, like a cartoon book, but it completely opened my eyes.
You planted the seed.
Exactly. And then I said, and then the word international hasn't left me since. Hence why when it was time to decide what to study at university, I went for international relations. And then the international law. The international law wasn't so much about the law, but the kind of structures governing international relations and international interactions. And so that was a key moment for me to learn more.
Yeah, amazing. And so then that brought you to the British Council. How? What's the kind of connection between the
studies
and the career?
Right. So the studies set me up very well to work internationally, not only academically, but at university I met people from all over the world. Whilst I was at university, I met people from mainly West Africa, in terms of Africa, mainly West Africa, and I was like, whoa, you know, this is really interesting. I'm so interested in the culture. Afrobeats just came on the scene, and so I was kind of like birthed into it. It was really cool being a teenager when Afrobeats started to really pop off, and so I was introduced to kind of like younger African culture, because being at home in London, I was exposed to many cultures, but it was more like that auntie, you know, my Pakistani friend down the road, or my Chinese British friend, or my Nigerian auntie lady. But to meet young people who were my age, I was like, okay, I need to find out more about this. And I also made friends with quite a few Japanese people, interestingly, and lived in a Japanese college on site in Kent.
Interesting.
And then I went to Japan for a year.
What took you to Japan?
Teaching English.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it all makes sense. The dots are all connected. But did you know that you would end up where you are now? Was this in your vision?
It was in my vision before I knew how to articulate it.
Okay.
So I knew that I wanted to work internationally. I knew that I was incredibly excited by meeting people who look different and have different food and speak different languages and have different stories to tell. And then I just needed time to work out what that would be professionally. So what Japan did for me was cement the idea of me being dropped into a completely new environment and having to learn language and cultural understanding and negotiation skills, and to build a network. And I was like, I love this. I have to do this for my whole life.
I love, and connect, basically.
Connect.
Got it. Okay, so it was kind of like maybe a cross between a happy accident, but also a very intentional path that you wanted to take, but you weren't sure which route
precisely. So it feels a bit less like an accident and more like the culmination of a bunch of stuff that I had all the ingredients but not the cake. And so when I got back from Japan, I started to work with the British Council. And I'm still there 15 years later.
And so clearly it's going really well.
I really enjoy it.
And is this your first international position with the British Council, or have you been around the world?
No, so I've travelled a lot. I've been very fortunate to travel to many different places, to Portugal and Germany and India and around East Africa and West Africa and Southern Africa. But in terms of living and working on a longer term basis, the last posting I had, which was the first one, was in Ethiopia.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and that was amazing.
Yeah, when was that?
That was 2015 to 2019.
Okay, that was quite a long stint. So we've got you for at least 3 years, right? We hope.
Speak to my boss.
I will. All right, so if you were starting out your career now, knowing what you know now and everything you've been through and everything you've discovered, thinking about unleashing your potential, which you're still doing every single day, what would you advise your younger self? Let's say you've just graduated from Kent Uni, and you're about to go and figure out your path. Would you do anything differently?
The one thing I would do differently is I would have studied a second language.
Why?
Because I think it's really important to be able to connect with other people in another language. Of course, not many of us will learn all the languages of the world, but I mean a language that's kind of broadly applicable to your area of work. So, you know, French or Swahili, for example, would be really useful in my case. And sometimes you can't see ahead, but I think that you don't lose out when you invest in learning a language, because it's also a very interesting way of learning about culture.
True.
The words that are used, the combination
Yeah.
of words,
Yeah.
the kind of culture around language, I feel is a great way to learn about how things work.
Yeah.
And also it's functionally useful.
Absolutely. I'm so jealous of people that can just speak loads of languages. And it's so important in today's world because we're all kind of mixed up, living everywhere. It opens opportunities for sure. So they say growth never stops. And no matter where we are in our lives, we always have the potential to grow as long as we're alive, right? So what tips can you give our audience who are watching, many of whom are starting out their careers maybe, and wanting that inspiration to know, how do I get from A to B? And there can be quite a big gap between starting out your career and hearing someone's country director of British Council Tanzania. So what can you tell us about kind of your how? How do you set goals? What systems and tools have you used in your life to drive your success?
Yeah, good question. So on the tips, I'm going to give a tip that was given to me a few months after I was posted to Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to Ethiopia, I went on promotion, and I also, of course, was my first time to leave the UK, and then I had also moved from education programs into civil society.
So change.
Like change.
Oh my goodness.
And there's an amazing, phenomenal woman who worked at the British Council. She left recently, who I bumped into on one of my trips back to the UK, like on the tube, on the underground.
Yeah.
And I never forget what she said to me. Her name's Tina Murphy.
Mm-hmm. Take your flowers, Tina.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my role models. And she said, trust your gut, Kami. Trust your gut, Kami.
Yeah.
She has this lovely, I think it's East London, perhaps, possibly, accent. And she, trust your gut, Kami. Trust your gut. And that's exactly what I'd like to say to everyone. Trust your gut. I think if we have time to explore, we find out what we're really interested in. So I was really fortunate to have a mother who like dedicated time. She's like a low-key hippie. Yeah. Dedicated time to finding out what her children want and what we're about. And I spent a lot of time with her. She was at home a lot. And so I had the privilege of knowing what I liked.
That's amazing.
You know, I liked
It is a privilege.
It is. I liked the sense of achievement I got. I liked traveling. I liked learning about new cultures, and I really enjoyed like seeing images and movies and music from different places. And that's another thing that was fed to me is my mother. And I only realised this recently as an adult, because there were some terms we weren't using, you know, culturally expressive, culturally advanced. No, we just used to watch movies. But she made sure I was exposed
to different types of cultures through that.
Precisely. And so trust your gut, explore the things that are interesting to you. And there's another thing that my husband always says to me, and he has a vague accent. He went to international school, so his accent's what it is, but he always says to me, don't play yourself.
Love it. And what does that mean?
Don't play yourself, Kami. It means...
You sound like it.
I do sound like it. Don't play yourself. And it means, basically, emotions are important, and I believe that, and I'm not one of those people who believe we should ignore emotions, but if we don't work out how to work with our emotions and around our emotions and use them for our benefit and the benefit of others, they could be a distraction. So, you know, for example, if I said, I'm so tired today, I'm so exhausted, I can't go and meet Ella and sit on the lovely yellow couch because I don't, you know, 5 minutes later I would have been fine and missed the opportunity. So silly example, but just be conscious of emotions, and when emotions have the ability to take us off the path. And the last tip I have is one from my dad, who's from Barbados, and I'm working on my Bayesian accent.
And we'll have you back when you've mastered that.
Yes, I'll come back when I've got that right. He says, keep your head, you know.
Keep your head. I love it. Oh my goodness, you're so good at accents, by the way. You need to. That's a whole other topic.
It's another day.
That's another yellow couch.
Yes. Keep your head. And for me, that means again, just as emotions, I feel like sometimes kind of anger or impatience, the things that can kind of take us off the path. So we need to think about things in terms of the broader picture. I think, you know, try not to, and that's one of the things I've learned in Tanzania. Don't stress, you know. And so
we'll teach you that.
It will teach you that, whether you like it or not. And so, you know, I'm really, really privileged to be here today, and it's a job I wanted for a really long time. But I had many days of doing things that didn't make it clear to me how I'd get here.
Yes.
So I don't want to
get
sit
you.
here and pretend
that it
you
was
know,
just a
I
straight
always
line.
knew I was going to get here. No, it was not like that at all. And so I needed days of encouragement. I needed days of keeping my eye on the big picture, of keeping my head, essentially. So I'll just encourage people to, you know, keep your eye on the goal, connect with the things that interest you, listen to your gut, and don't play yourself.
I love it. Wisdom right there. And I think something else I've picked up from your kind of explanation just now is that you've also had wonderful people around you that have guided you and supported you. And I think that's really important as well, is to think about who are you surrounded by and how are you filling up your cup as well.
And I'm so blessed to have really genuinely deeply brilliant and kind and great and supportive colleagues. My boss now has been my boss before, and he's just such a brilliant man that has completely impacted my life. His name's Tom Porter. Sorry to do this, but he's just a great human, and to observe how someone who's more senior than I am, who's doing something I'd like to do in the future, how they operate, how he's navigated new spaces and supported me to find my voice. And I've been fortunate to work with people who just are really conscious of not taking my voice away. And even in the quiet times where I had to keep my head, where I was doing work that wasn't obviously leading me here, I had colleagues and especially line managers who were always showing me, there's something more about you. And I just think that's really, it's not something we can necessarily strive for, but if you have that, use it as a resource.
Use it as a resource, and also be grateful for it as well, because sometimes we miss that opportunity if we block ourselves or don't see it or choose not to see it. Nice. So on a completely side kind of tangent here, I hear Birdie told me you have a healthy meals blog. Yep, we did our research. So tell us about that. What is it all about? What's the inspiration behind it? I'm interested to know where that came about.
Well, I just love food.
Yeah, don't we all?
I'm a bit greedy. Yes, love food. I'm a big foodie. I grew up around food, and food being an expression of kind of everything. Love, maybe anger, gratitude,
all the emotions,
welcoming, exactly. And so I really like food. And in my case, I had a very challenging health journey, and that's another part of my story. That's another layer, which means that I'm extra grateful to be here, and why I'm extra grateful for the people I've worked with who have supported me. I mean, I have colleagues who have been amazing. Just in Zanzibar this week, I saw some of them, colleagues from Kenya, Zimbabwe, who've supported me for years. And so I'm mentioning that just to say that there are times where it feels like something's taken us off the path we want to be on, and we kind of have to hold on to all the good things. So in my case, I had this really challenging health journey where I was severely anemic. I mean, so dangerously anemic. And that was caused by a health condition. And so I had to look into some of the reasons for this health condition. Statistics say that females of African descent suffer more from some health conditions. And in my case, I decided to go a kind of more natural route as best as I could. And so I was looking at foods that could potentially be inflammatory. And things that would make me more tired. So I was trying to find food that would give my body nutrition and what I need. So I went on a plant-based journey. And the challenge that I had is some of the kind of most famous blogs and places where I could find plant-based food, being based in the UK at the time. Actually, I was based in Ethiopia at the time. Sorry, when I started it, I was based in Ethiopia. But the things that were around me, including online, didn't necessarily at the time include the kind of flavour that I'm used to. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try and do a kind of culturally sensitive blog about meals you can make that you'll enjoy, or that kind of reach back into the flavours and the spices and the cultures that I'm used to, but without the animal products, for a range of reasons, you know, good for us, for the environment, and the animals, precisely. I'm not preachy about it.
Yeah.
But it did help me a lot. And so I've continued the blog.
Yeah.
I don't post as much as I'd like to, but I have lots of meal ideas, and planting features a lot. Be ready for that.
I love planting. I need to check this out. So where do I find you online? Where's this blog?
It's on Instagram.
Instagram, what's it called?
Kami Asamani.
Kami Asamani, we're coming for you. That's awesome, really inspiring. And so you're still living by this kind of healthy
Not as
eating,
much as I'd like to. Not as much as I'd like to, because I found it more challenging whilst I'm working out where to buy the things that I want in a new country.
Yeah.
And so I've reintroduced some of the things that I'd rather not eat. And I'm enjoying them, to be honest with you. But I'm about to start another health kick soon.
Okay.
Yes.
Good to know. Inspiring. So unleashing your potential is also about making sure you have the right energy, that you've got the fuel to be able to do the work as well. So I'm just going to move into my kind of fun segment, which is our trivia questions. So you've talked a lot about travel and food and places that you visited. So I'm going to go down that thematic route. So my first question to you is, what's the most memorable food experience you've had yet? Like that meal that was wow. It's all right if you made it for yourself. We don't mind.
You don't mind. That's allowed.
Yeah.
That meal that was the bomb. So, before the whole plant-based situation,
when we could eat whatever we wanted.
I could eat whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
It's a long, interesting story, but essentially, I went to Ghana to meet my husband's parents. My husband is a British Ghanaian raised in Botswana.
Oh, wow.
And I went to Accra to meet his parents.
Yeah.
Somehow he ended up leaving before me and leaving me.
That's the African way, I think.
Oh,
just let them survive.
I wish I knew that at the time. Somehow ended up leaving me with his parents in Accra. And my mother-in-law, alive at the time, took me to Ekropong.
Right.
Which is where my husband is from.
Yes.
And she made something called palava stew, which is kind of like a green spinach with egusi, which I believe is a melon seed.
Okay. Wow.
And that
was amazing. Cool. I hope you have a picture of that somewhere. We'll have to look for it online. Most beautiful place that you've ever visited or kind of been?
Oh goodness, that's a hard one.
I know.
That's a really
especially when you've done all that great travel. Okay, something that stood out, or maybe a couple of places.
Okay, if I'm allowed a couple.
You're allowed a couple.
I'm allowed a couple. So one is Antigua. I went for my honeymoon with my husband, and I'll never forget it because we got to the beach and he said, "Oh, I thought those pictures were photoshopped."
And so it was real.
It was real. My favourite beach in Antigua is called Pigeon Point, and it's just a calm, beautiful place.
Yeah.
And yes, I think the sea can be quite healing.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. Another place that I thought was just remarkable was the churches of Lalibela in Ethiopia.
Yes.
They're over 1,000 years old.
I've heard
they existed before some of the history we speak about more often.
Yeah.
And I had never in my life saw some of the kind of like famous biblical stories depicted with imagery of brown people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this exists.
Yeah.
Never seen this before.
Our history.
So it was really beautiful. They were really well kept and in use.
Yeah. Amazing. Last but certainly not least, what would you choose to be the soundtrack to your life so far? That is quite hard.
So I have a nephew who's in the music industry, and as much as I feel like I'm too old for UK grime, he has a song called, essentially the words are, "Don't wake me if I'm dreaming." Don't wake me if I'm dreaming.
Wow, love it. We need to find the song now as well. So I'm interested to know, Kami, you've been here a couple of months now in Tanzania, right? I think you got here in February, you said. So what has been the biggest culture shock for you?
Culture shock. The biggest thing for me, I think, is one, the big caribou that I get everywhere.
Yeah.
So in Tanzania, I feel like welcome is not just a word, but a culture.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a sentiment.
Yeah.
Or it could be, the bigger caribou.
Yeah.
But that idea of welcome is really nice for me as an outsider.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting it, and it's really heartwarming. Another thing is that I find people are really helpful. I've had people just help me to do random things.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago I was by myself with one too many watermelons.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a movie where that happens.
You know that movie. The gentleman who sold them to me just helped me to get a taxi for no reason at all. It wasn't any benefit to him, and he meant it genuinely. And he was, he was a bit, get her home safely, and he meant it. And I just feel like that's really special, and it's not everywhere. And the last thing is that I didn't know. I had no idea that it's possible for me to be mistaken as Tanzanian.
Oh yeah, cool. You see, you need to stay.
Precisely.
You're one of us.
Precisely.
I'm glad to hear that your culture shocks are positive.
Oh, absolutely.
That's good. Kami, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I feel like we could do a whole other hour of this. But I wanted to leave you with the last word. What message would you like to leave for our audience today about unleashing your potential and how you can do it successfully?
So I think despite the fact that I can't do accents very well.
You do, though.
I have to go with my Tina Murphy's Trust Your Gut.
Yeah.
And my dad's Keep Your Head. And my husband's Don't Play Yourself.
Trust your gut, keep your head, don't play yourself. Kami, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for being here. Thank you for gracing us with your presence, and hope to see you again on the Yellow Couch soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for watching today. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion as much as I did. It's been great fun. And don't forget to subscribe to our channels. You can see all the details below. Follow us on our socials, and see you next time.